Hello and welcome. I'm Johnny with Barrett Consulting. We provide actionable financial data for growing electrical business owners. And today the topic is the path to debt elimination. I was meeting with a client this week and reviewing their financials with them, and they have a pretty strong cash position with reserves. And that really gives them options. And I was thinking, well, if somebody wanted to start the path to get to a position like that, what would that path look like? And I bringing this to share it with you. So, in thinking through this, the first step would be understanding your cash story. Now, to understand your cash story, a lot of times business owners will look at their profit and loss statement and see that there was a profit and then wonder where did the cash go? And there are more components to cash than just profit and loss. And so we're going to talk about that. So to start out, an approach for you to understand your cash story a little better is to, number one, ensure that your bookkeeping is all up to date. And then from there, download a statement of cash flows from whatever software you're using, QuickBooks or other accounting software, and look at this statement of cash flows and go ahead and see where the cash went. Now, this statement isn't super intuitive, so another way that you can review the cash is to run a balance sheet, and let's say you can run it for the last 12 months. So you just run it for that time range, and then you can select on there to have it in monthly columns. And then with those columns lined up, you can see month by month where your cash balance was at the end of each month. You can see things like loans that were paid down. You can see the principal amount being paid down on a loan, and you can see things like owner distributions that balance is growing if there's been owner distributions each month. So by doing that, you're going to get a sense of not just the profit and loss, but where the cash is actually going. And it's important to understand the cash story because there are a lot of moving components to a business besides the profit and loss. And by becoming familiar with that, you can see what the trend is doing and understand how you got to a position of debt in the first place. So here's a simple example of what a cash flow statement could look like. So at the top, we have starting cash balance, which would be what was in the bank as of the end of the prior month. From there, there's the net income. So after the net income, you would think, well, the difference between the starting balance and the net income or net loss would be the cash, right? But there are some things that will show up on the profit and loss that are actually non-cash expenses. And I won't go into the details of exactly why that is and everything, but don't want to bore you with the accounting stuff. But in the end, there are just different things that don't show up on the profit and loss, but are more of a balance sheet change. And the simplest way to illustrate this is, as I was talking about before, the owner distribution. The owner distribution doesn't show up as on the profit and loss as an expense. It shows up as taking capital out of the business. And so that's a balance sheet transaction. And that's this example right here, 5,600. Credit card balances, those can go up and down. And because of that, that affects the cash as well because expenses were made, but the card hasn't been paid off yet. And so because of that, the expenses are showing up in the profit and loss, but it's more of a balance sheet thing. So by studying this and understanding not just your profit and loss, but how the rest of the cash in the business is flowing, it will give you a lot of insight and it will help you understand maybe why you've needed to lean on a line of credit or whatever debt source that you've gotten into. So by understanding that, you can go ahead and make a plan to change things up. You know, it's been said that we don't have problems, but just decisions to make. And of course, a new approach can bring new results. If we keep doing the same things, we'll get the same results. But if we change, we have the opportunity to have some different results. So now that we've understood the cash flow, like the story of your cash, now we're in a position where we can make a change. And so it can be overwhelming with business sometimes to know what change would have the biggest impact. And to reverse a trend of going into debt, we would want to go for the low-hanging fruit. And so I've gone through the seven profit and cash flow levers in other videos, so you're welcome to go back and check on those. Some of those I go through each one of these seven profit and cash flow levers in a lot of detail. So if you want specifics about one of them, again, go back and check that out. But I want to bring these up here. So the first one is price. You can increase your prices, and obviously that's going to increase your profit. Number two, volume, you can sell more. If you are currently profitable and you expand and you're selling more, bringing in more revenue, then that should increase your profit as well. Cost of goods sold and direct costs. So the next one is you can reduce the price you pay for your inventory. So the amount you're purchasing parts for, or you could pay less for direct labor, meaning you could make your labor more efficient. And by doing that, the costs would be reduced and the profit would increase. Next, operating expenses. You can reduce your operating costs. Are there subscriptions that are going on but that you're not getting benefit anymore? Are there ways that you can change the structure of your operating expenses to reduce those? Those are the types of questions you can ask for and those things that you can maybe find and change for operating expenses. Next is accounts receivable. You can collect faster. Are you allowing your customers to have 30, 60, 90 days to pay you? Or do you have a firm system in place of collections where if you haven't received payment by a certain day, they're getting automated reminders? And if those aren't working, your team is reaching out and getting the money in the door quickly. The more quickly you get the money in the door, the more cash that you're going to have in the bank and a stronger position you're going to be in. Number six is inventory and work in progress. So you can reduce the amount of inventory you have on hand or bill your work sooner. If you think about it, your work in progress is basically a project. If it takes you typically 45 days to do a project and you're able to whittle that down to 20 days, then you're not incurring those labor expenses and parts expenses and having those sit there for the additional days, you're able to cut that down. So the quicker that you can um, go ahead and bill for what you've invested in, the more quickly that you'll get money in the bank and the higher your bank balance is going to go. And number seven is accounts payable. You can pay slower. Let's say you just buy parts on the spot and you pay cash for it. Well, what if you negotiate with your vendor and you're able to put it on an account and pay it 30 days later or 60 days later? And you're spending, let's just say $30,000 a month on parts. Well, now you get 30 or $60,000 depending on 30 or 60 days back into your business, where instead of spending that cash up front, you're able to delay and that puts cash into the business. Now that also, on the other side of the coin, that could be increasing debt, right? Because that's something that you eventually need to pay. So you'd have to examine that carefully, but that is a lever that you can use, one of the seven profit and cash flow levers. So I went through those pretty quickly with you, but by looking at these, um, one thing that you can do that's pretty powerful is use a cash flow forecast to plug in different scenarios of, hey, if I change my price, if I increase it by 10%, what kind of impact would that have on my profit and and how would that affect cash over time? Would I be able to get excess cash and pay down my debt, and how long would that take? If I compare that to operating expenses, what if I was able to instead plug into that model, reducing operating expenses by $5,000 a month? And if I did that, how would that affect cash over time? So I wanted to mention that there's power in having a cash flow model and being able to model things out in the future when it comes to these different profit and cash flow levers, because you can see which one will give you the most return for the energy that you put into it. So this is something that we help our clients with is we have a cash flow model and we're able to plug in different scenarios. It's nice because you can see the future before it happens and it can inform your decision making. Maybe instead of focusing on your operating expenses, for example, you feel like those are in a good spot. and you could only reduce those by, let's say, a couple $100. So instead, by reorienting your team and just making sure that you reduce the amount of how long it takes you to complete and bill a project, you can plug that in and see how that would actually bring, let's say, $30,000 into the bank account. Then you'd want to focus on that one. So by using a cash flow model, that can really help you see the different options and make a decision that gives you the best return and the quickest return. So I wanted to share that with you, and I have a couple questions now that we've gone through this. So if you sit and think for a minute, how would eliminating business debt, how would that have an impact on you? Like from a business perspective, how would that change the business and your feeling with your business? And then on a personal level, how would have eliminating that business debt make you feel if you're able to do that and actually save up a cash reserve in your business and have a rolling cash reserve that you're able to use if something comes up. Next, what will happen if you don't change your approach to managing the finances and your debt and the trend keeps going the same way that it is currently? Got a couple challenges for you. The first is to go ahead and review your cash story, just like we just discussed. Just go through those three steps of making sure your bookkeeping's up to date, review your cash flow statement, and then review your balance sheet as it goes month to month. So I challenge you to do that, and then go ahead and write a goal for debt pay down. Not only a goal of how much debt you want to pay down and by when, but also write down a plan of how you're going to accomplish this, which of the seven profit and cash flow levers that you'll use to go ahead and be able to pay down your debt. Hey, I hope this exercise is helpful to you. Again, I challenge you to take the time and work through it. If you have any questions or would like to speak with me, I would love to hear from you. I'm John. You can just email me, johnny@johnnybarrett.com. I'm available to chat and to help any way that I can. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll talk soon.